Good evening. Welcome to the May 1st, 2023 regularly scheduled Valley View School Board meeting. I would ask that you silence your cell phones, rise, and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Member Baduras. Mr. Baduras, if you would, please.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Member Perro, the board mission statement, please.
Our mission is to empower all learners to be college, career, and life ready, and to develop, grow, and achieve as productive citizens.
Thank you. Moving down the agenda. Ms. Kinder, is
Thank you, President Quigley. I would like to ask the board to approve the agenda as presented.
there a motion? So moved. Second. Motion and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The ayes have it. Consent agenda items. Ms. Kinder.
We have 6 items seeking your approval under consent this evening. 5.1, board meeting minutes, April 17th, 2023. 5.2, executive session meeting minutes, April 17th, 2023. 5.3, intergovernmental agreement with the New Lenox School District 122. 5.4, Romeoville High School trip. 5.5, gifts to Romeoville High School. And 5.6, Easter Seals contract.
Is there a motion?
Second.
Motion and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Member Perro,
Yes.
Member Baduras,
Yes.
Member Campbell,
Yes.
Secretary Sikora,
Yes.
Vice President Zach.
Yes.
And President Quigley.
Yes. Action report number 6, Ms. Nash.
Thank you. Action Report 6.1 is our consolidated action report. We are seeking your approval on all items as presented.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, hearing none, a roll call vote would be in order.
Member Baduras,
Yes.
Member Campbell,
Yes.
Member Perro,
Yes.
Secretary Sikora,
Yes.
Vice President Zach.
Yes.
And President Quigley.
Yes.
Thank you. Before I move on to my next item, I would just like to note that in the consolidated action report was the approval of the new assistant principal at Woodview Elementary School, Ms. Larissa Addison. She's in the audience today, and I'd like to introduce everyone to her. We are so excited that she is joining the administrative team. Ms. Addison has been with us since 2014, has spent the majority of her career at Woodview, and definitely has Woodview at her heart. So we're excited about the things that she has planned and in store for Woodview in partnership with Principal Fertute, and we're anxious to see her leadership moving forward. So congratulations, Larissa.
And she went to the Harvard of the Midwest, also known as Eastern Illinois University. So we got that going for us.
Correct.
All right. Any EIU graduates, go ahead. Feel free. Board liaison reports. Any and all from my right?
I actually have one more.
I'm sorry.
One more also.
Job description.
Yep, 6.2 action report is a job description for Executive Secretary for Assessment Accountability. We brought this at the previous board meeting for review. We're seeking your approval at this time.
Is there a motion?
Second.
Motion and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, a roll call vote, please.
Member Campbell,
Yes.
Member Baduras,
Yes.
Member Perro,
Yes.
Secretary Sikora,
Yes.
Vice President Zach.
Yes.
And President Quigley.
Yes. Now, moving down the agenda. I don't have a 6.3. We have a 6.3?
I
No?
thought I had a 6.3.
You got a 6.3? It's not
I
on mine. Okay.
do,
Let's go with
but it's not on the
6.3.
agenda. 6.3 is also a review of job descriptions, so these are being presented for information this evening. There are 2 job descriptions that are being presented for review. They are both actually existing job descriptions. One is for an ESL itinerant teacher, and the other is a change to the intervention enrichment coordinator. I will make sure that you have the executive memo on these as soon as possible, because I'm not seeing them.
Dr.
in the
Nash?
packet. Are they?
Sorry to interject. That will be under 16.2, under
there we
information,
go.
once we re-adjourn. So
Thank you.
you're ahead of the game. I like
am.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now, liaison reports, any and all from my right, any and all from my left. I've got one just real brief. Oh, go ahead.
That's okay.
I saw the light on.
The Assessment for Accountability met on April 25th for the last meeting of the year. We will be meeting next year for further discussion on teaching and grading for accountability. Teachers will be notified of any grading changes occurring at their grade level.
Just a brief update in Springfield, there's 19 days left session, actually 17 because they start tomorrow, adjourning on the 19th. There is a structural hole in the proposed budget of several $100 million based on the cost of some healthcare things that were basically unforeseen. We don't know how they're going to work that out. I don't know what they're going to do with the additional funds that may have been scheduled for education. I doubt that they'll touch that. One doesn't ever know. But when you're trying to fill a $300 or $400 million gap, it takes a little struggles. That being said, I do think the General Assembly will adjourn on time. Last week, they moved almost 300 bills out of committee of origin and onto the current floor that they may be in, House or Senate, and they will be taking action on those bills plus several hundred others in the next 2 weeks before they finally craft a budget and move on. So we'll see what Springfield has to offer us and sometimes do to us. Hopefully less of the do and more of the offer. At this time, I would ask Member Perro to join me at the podium. If you would, please. So Diane Perro started serving on this board in 2015. She was actively involved well before that in our school districts in lots of different things that she did. And towards that end, I know she's probably put as much time as anybody ever on a board in that period of time working with things at the district. She's going on to do some other things, but I know she'll still be involved in our community. I know you're on the H2O board, and you're probably not, I'm sure I'm going to get a phone call for the Valley View Enrichment Foundation, and if I don't get the phone call from her, I'll get it from somebody else, and then she'll beat me up the night of the event for more money, which is fantastic, because that's what the Enrichment Foundation is for. With that being said, I want to thank you, and on behalf of the board, for your time served on at this district. And we have all kinds of fun stuff that was put together. But primarily, we got this really cool thing. If I can get it out of here. And you can put this on your mantle, or you can put it on your desk. And it is a crystal clock that says Diane Perro, Board of Education, 2015-2023, with great appreciation to your leadership and service to the VVSD learners, staff, and community.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And there's all kinds of, I'm not even sure what this thing is, but it looks like fun. So here you can have that. And then there's a book so you can take notes, and there's some little clippy things so you can hold things together, and always remember us when you're looking at your refrigerator magnets and you see the VVSD thing. So,
Thank you, Steve.
you bet. There you go. Stick that back in the box. Yeah, there we go. I'm sure you probably want to say a few words.
Yeah, if that's okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Good evening. Thank you, Steve, and the board for the kind words. I appreciate that. And I have a exit speech, I guess you might call it. As I stand before you and give this speech, I have a myriad of emotions running through me and many things to say, but I don't want to keep you all here until midnight, so I'll try to keep it short. Not a promise, though. First of all, I want to thank the community for electing me 8 years ago to serve on the board of the most forward-thinking, cutting-edge school district in Illinois. These voters gave me the opportunity to delve deeper into the workings of our school district, serve on committees to make the positive changes to propel our district forward, and make decisions that serve our district, both our students and staff, and our community well. To say I'm proud of Valley View School District is a mere understatement. In the past 8 years, we've seen many changes in Valley View and have been through more than I could have ever imagined. We have seen hundreds of students recognized at our board meetings for their accomplishments in all arenas, scholastically, athletically, and most near and dear to my heart, in the music and theater arena.
Recognizing our high-achieving students is always a sense of pride for everyone, but the time I spent in our buildings with all of our students was the most rewarding for me. Being a guest reader, attending games, ROTC events, concerts, or theater productions, greeting students on their way into school to start their day, visiting classroom for a Let's Eat activity, sharing the excitement of a vegetable garden grown and tended to by our students, observing morning meeting time, or simply observing our students' interactions with their teachers and each other. That's truly what brought me the most joy. There is so much good going on in our schools, and our students and staffs are simply the best. My heart bursts with pride so often when visiting our schools. Let's start with our James Mitchum Early Childhood Center, kind of a hidden gem that is becoming much more well-known for its excellence in serving our littlest learners. State and national recognition has been rightly awarded to our Early Childhood Center. The youngest of our learners are getting a huge leg up on the success of their educational journey, and Valley View is leading the way compared to any of the surrounding school districts in this arena. With the upcoming expansion of our early childhood program, Valley View is making a promise to the community that they will provide for the needs of our youngest learners. I encourage this board to continue to support the Early Childhood Center in every way possible. When I look at our 13 elementary schools, I am forever in awe of what those educators do for our kiddos. From wiping snotty noses and tying shoes to reminding them of the importance of wearing deodorant, our elementary school educators are doing much more than just teaching, reading, writing, and arithmetic. My hat goes off to all of them for their daily efforts that go above and beyond just teaching academics. I've always said that it takes a very special person to teach middle school students. That's a challenging age, in my opinion. But when I see the exciting things going on in our middle schools, where our students are starting to become much more independent, I enjoy watching them prepare for high school as they develop both academically and socially. High school is a time where students really start to engage in what they truly love in life, well, in that moment anyway. And I believe that is where they develop bonds with certain teachers that will last a lifetime. At least I can say that from my own kids' experience. This is where you see kids blossom, both in the classroom, on the sports field, or possibly on a stage. Our high schools have so many clubs and activities for our students so that they can experience everything from playing a sport, and I'm pretty sure we've got just about every single sport covered, to playing an instrument, to singing and dancing on stage, to competitions and things such as ROTC, Mathletes, Arts, Speech Team, DECA, Science Club, and also the many non-competitive clubs. We've got so much to offer for our students. On the academic side, since I've been on the board, I've seen the number of AP class offerings increase greatly, as well as the number of students taking AP classes and ultimately the AP test. Our high school leaders do a great job of encouraging academic excellence and acknowledging our students for their academic successes. Our relation with Wilco for our high school students to learn the trades or get their feet wet in a non-academic or college-related field is exactly what some of our students want and desire, and that is needed in life just as much as the CEOs of the Fortune 500 companies. Valley View is privileged to have this partnership with Wilco. Our secondary transition program for our 18 to 22-year-old students is another program that I love equally as much as I love our early childhood program. To observe what goes on inside and outside those classrooms really opens one's eyes to the necessity of ensuring that the product of our school system is life-ready. Our STEP program is unique and a pure blessing for some of our kids after high school graduation. While putting book knowledge into our students' brains is extremely important, and ultimately what our job to educate is all about, I also believe it is equally important to give them the skills and lessons they need in order to simply be functioning, good human beings in society when they leave our walls. If we can't teach them how to be good citizens who will be kind and will honor and respect their peers, leaders, and community, then we haven't done our jobs. That comes with a mentality that starts at the top. I always believed in holding our senior leadership to a high standard is what makes our district second to none. Superintendent Mitchum held himself to a high standard with high expectations from his staff. I learned so much from Jim, both before I got on the board and while I was on the board. His vision for Valley View and his beliefs were something that most always made complete logical sense to me, as he always backed up his beliefs with solid research and evidence. His vision and insight to situations always impressed and intrigued me. I am proud to say that I truly believe that each person currently on our senior leadership team works harder than any other district administrators I've ever known. They walk the talk when it comes to leading and never put themselves above the standards they expect from their peers or subordinates. To Mary Worster, ever since we started working together at Jonas Salk, I was always impressed with your tenacity with the students needing special services, and always knew your professionalism would take you far. You and your staff definitely have the best interest of our students near and dear to your hearts. To John, our newbie, you had some very big shoes to fill, but I think your feet fit exceptionally well into your new shoes, which you have broken in beautifully and successfully thus far. You have a strong support team who should be commended for all that they do. To Judy, the amount of hours of work you had to put in during the pandemic was unprecedented, but certainly did not go unnoticed by me. I know there was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears during those times by you and your team. All I can say is thank you. To Shelley, I've never known of a more professional executive assistant who also happens to constantly have the cheeriest disposition around. I often refer to you as Mary Poppins. Not gonna lie, I'm gonna miss your texts and your emails, always keeping my schedule on track. How could anyone serving on a school board during 2020 not mention the pandemic? If that wasn't enough to turn a ship upside down, I don't know what possibly could do it. But with Rachel just stepping into the helm, our ship not only stayed upright, but it sailed. Sometimes the seas were a little rough, but most of the sailing was smooth. And your perseverance and straight nautical arrow kept us in business. Rachel, I thought the selection of you for superintendent would assure me that Jim's high standards would remain intact, but in reality, the truth of the matter is that your standards and expectations have surpassed his. This is exactly what it takes to ensure that Valley View is providing the best education and experience possible for our learners. You have what it takes to propel our district to new heights, and I can't wait to watch you grow in your position and continue to put our district on the map of excellence. No district can stay afloat without a support team at every turn. To Adam Herder, Maria Burgos, Carter Larry, Rob Gilmore, and recently retired Astrid Welch, Rovell Pollack, Mike Lucasio, Mike Lopez, Dave Richards, Joanne Borg, Megan Gibbons, Keith Lacomiak, Jim Mullaney, and to all of your staff. I appreciate everything you do on a daily basis for Valley View. Many people forget those working behind the scenes, but as a theater person, I know that the show cannot go on or even begin without the support behind the scenes. To Renee, our AFT president, when I subbed for you, I always admired you as a teacher, but I admire you even more now as union president. You have developed into that position with a fierce passion for your members and their beliefs. Don't ever lose that spark. Thank you to everyone who makes Valley View the outstanding district that it is. I am grateful and honored to work alongside each and every one of you. To Vicki, I wish you success as you enter this role and hope you will find the same enjoyment that I did while serving this board. To Bill Spengler, I know that you will continue to dedicate yourself to our district, even as your youngest is graduating from high school. I hope that you will pursue a board seat in the future, as I truly believe that you will be one of the best board members I have ever known. You'll have my support. To my fellow board members, I appreciate the conversations and open dialogue throughout my time with you. We have had some very intense conversations, but then typically follow them up with personal related chit-chat, which has allowed me to get to know all of you on a personal level. Each of you has left a lasting impression on me, and I will always value your dedication to Valley View. I would be remiss if I didn't end this with a huge thank you to my family. To my husband, Mike, thank you for always supporting me in my efforts to try and make the world a better place. Hopefully the nights of, you're on your own for dinner again, or sorry, I can't, I'm attending a game or a concert or an event for school will diminish a little. After just returning from my son's wedding and related weekend festivities and the planning of the upcoming wedding for my daughter, my head is kind of in a cloud. But it's a cloud I'm happy to sit in anytime. Being there for my family has always been my #1 priority, and I can't wait to spend more time with my kids and their spouses as they grow into their new lives together. I do not have to be an elected school board member to continue to be active and engaged in my community and in our schools. I plan to continue to attend school events as much as I can and to support the students and educators in our district. I will end by repeating, to say I'm proud of Valley View is a mere understatement, and I have no reason to believe that my pride will ever waver. Hashtag VVSD proud. Thank you for allowing me to serve on this board of this outstanding district. Thanks. Oh, are you leaving?
You know what that means, Mike? Monday Night Football, the house isn't your own anymore.
As Diane is saying her final farewells, and thank you for your beautiful, thoughtful, and personal departing words that, of course, recognizes everybody around us and everyone that makes our district such a great place. So I just wanted to also publicly thank you. President Quigley said many of the sentiments, but I echo that, and I can truly say that you've represented the epitome of being truly invested in the right things, in the work to make our district the best it can possibly be for our students, our staff, and our families. And I am forever grateful for that dedication. Beyond the visibility, no one will ever recognize truly how dedicated and committed you've been and how supportive you've been. With a high standard, with a tenacity that many around us also have. But I can only say that I hope other board members in the future, in many years to come, continue to invest in the way that you have in our community, and I have a feeling you won't go far. So personally and professionally, thank you for all you've given to Valley View School District. Thank you.
At this time, I would ask Member-elect Ms. Sutherland to make her way down towards the podium. And at this moment, I will entertain a motion to adjourn this Valley View School Board sine die.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Motion and seconded, called for 3 times. We now, with a roll call vote from the clerk. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Member Campbell,
Yes.
Member Badouris,
Yes.
Secretary Sikora,
Yes.
Vice President Zach,
Yes.
and President Quigley.
Yes, we now adjourn sine die. Now, moving down the agenda. Mr. O'Driscoll will lead us, those of us who just got elected, in the oath of office. So if you all join at the podium, if you just recently got elected. Laney, where are you? Yeah, all right. Go ahead, John, let's get this thing started.
Please raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Vicky Sutherland,
Do solemnly swear that I will faithfully discharge
solemnly swear I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office of member of the Board of Education
duties of the office of the members of the Board of Education
of the Valley View Community Unit School District 365U,
of the Valley View Community School District 365U,
in accordance with the Constitution of the United States,
in accordance with the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the laws of the State of Illinois,
and the laws of the State of Illinois,
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
And now for the other stuff, Springfield Baptist. I further swear that
Further swear that
Further swear that
I shall respect taxpayer interests
I shall respect taxpayers' interests
by serving as a faithful protector
by serving as a faithful protector
of the school district's assets.
of the school district's assets,
I shall encourage and respect
shall encourage and respect
the free expression of opinion by my fellow board members
free expression of my opinions of my fellow board members
and others who seek a hearing before the board
and others who seek a hearing before the board,
while respecting the privacy of students and employees.
respecting the privacy of students and employees.
I shall recognize that a board member
I recognize that a board member
has no legal authority as an individual
has no legal authority as an individual,
and that decisions can be made
and decisions can be made
only by a majority vote at a public board meeting.
only by a majority vote of a public board meeting.
I shall abide by a majority decision of the board
I shall abide by a majority decision of the board
while retaining the right to seek changes
while retaining the right to seek changes
in such decisions through ethical and constructive channels.
in such decisions through ethical and constructive channels.
As part of the Board of Education,
as part of the Board of Education.
I shall accept the responsibility
Shall accept the responsibility
for my role in the equitable and quality education
for my
and role in the equitable and quality education
of every student in the school district.
of every student in the school district.
I shall foster with the board
I shall foster with the board
extensive participation of the community,
extensive participation of the community,
formulate goals,
formulate goals,
define outcomes,
define outcomes,
and set the course for the Valley View Community Unit School District 365U.
and set the course for the Valley View Community School District 365U.
I shall assist in establishing a structure
I
Shall assist in establishing the structure
and an environment designed to ensure
and an environment designed to ensure
all students have the opportunity
all students have the opportunity
to attain their maximum potential
to obtain their maximum potential
through a sound organizational framework.
through a sound organizational framework.
I shall strive to ensure
Strive to ensure
a continual assessment of student achievement
a continual assessment of students' achievement
and all conditions affecting the education
and all conditions affecting the education
of our children in compliance with state law.
of our children in compliance with the state law.
I shall serve as education's key advocate
I shall serve as education's key advocate
on behalf of students in our community school
on behalf of students in our community schools
to advance the vision for Valley View Community Unit School District 365U.
to advance the vision of the Lakeview School District 365U.
And
And
we shall strive to work together
we shall strive to work together
with the district superintendent
with the district superintendent
to lead the school district toward
to lead the school district towards
fulfilling the vision the board has created,
fulfilling the vision the board has created,
fostering excellence for every student
fostering excellence for every student
in the areas of academic skills,
areas of academic skills, knowledge, citizenship,
and personal development.
and personal development.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Thank you. Want to sit?
That may be the longest oath in the history of oaths. Welcome and roll call of board members. That would be your job. Madam Clerk, please.
Member Badouris?
Yes.
Member
Present.
Campbell?
Here.
Member Sutherland? Here. Secretary Sikora?
Yes.
Vice President Zach?
Here.
President Quigley?
Present. We have a quorum. We have established that. New order of business, the appointment of a president pro tem.
I'm making a motion to appoint President Quigley as President Pro Temp.
Second.
Excuse me, wait, is that right? And he's pro temp? Are you sure? Lawyer over there, is that proper? When we know he gonna run for the office?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right, just keeping y'all legal up here.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
The motion is seconded. We have a motion and a second. Are there any comments? A roll call vote would be in order.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Sutherland? Yes. Member
Push-
Badouris?
You gotta push the red button.
Yes.
Secretary Sikora?
Yes.
Vice President Zach?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes. Let's see, now, we need a motion to appoint the position of president. Are there any nominations for the office of president of the board?
I just got it, I still don't feel comfortable. I thought all our lawyers always do that. So he get to do that again, lawyer? I'm just, something just don't feel right about that.
The prior motion was for President Pro Tem, and this is now for President.
Run the election on his own position. Okay, if you say so, I don't.
We can make somebody else. All right, are there nominations for office of president? We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Are there any other nominations for office of president? Are there any other nominations for office of president? Are there any other nominations for office of president? Hearing none, seeing none, nominations are now closed. We have a nomination, we have a motion and a second. At this time, a roll call vote would be in order. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Member Sutherland?
Yes.
Member Badouris?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Of course.
Member Sikora?
Yes.
Member Zach?
Yes.
President Pro Tem Quigley?
Yes. All right, now, moving down the agenda. We need to elect a board vice president. Are there any nominations for board vice president?
I nominate Victor Zach.
I need you to make it in a motion.
I make a motion to nominate Victor Zach for Vice President.
Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Member Sikora. Are there any other nominations for the office of vice president? Are there any other nominations for office of vice president? Are there any other nominations for office of vice president? Hearing none, seeing none, nominations for vice president are now closed. Madam Clerk, we have a motion and a second for vice president. Please take the roll.
Member Badouris?
Yes.
Member Sutherland?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Of course.
Member Sikora?
Yes.
Member Zach?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes. Moving down the agenda, are there any nominations for the office of board secretary?
I nominate Deb Sikora for Board Secretary.
I need it in a motion form.
I
Sorry.
make a motion to nominate Deb Sikora for Board Secretary.
Are there any seconds?
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. Are there any other nominations for board secretary? Are there any nominations for board secretary? Are there any other nominations for board secretary? Hearing none, seeing none, board secretary nominations are now closed. We have a motion and a second. A roll call vote would be in order. Madam Clerk.
Member Campbell?
Of course.
Member Badouris?
Yes.
Member Sutherland?
Yes.
Member Sikora?
Yes.
Vice President Zach?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes. We now are moving down the agenda. We need a nomination in a motion form to appoint the board treasurer. Are there any nominations to appoint the board treasurer?
I make a motion to nominate Lindsay Janata For board treasurer?
There's a motion. We need a second. We have a motion and we have a second. Mr. Zach. Are there any other nominations for board secretary? Treasurer. Are there any other nominations for board treasurer? Are there any other nominations for board treasurer? Hearing none, seeing none, nominations for treasurer are now closed. We have a motion and we have a second. A roll call vote would be in order. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Member Sutherland?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Of course.
Member Badouris?
Yes.
Secretary Sikora?
Yes.
Vice President Zach?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes. Last but not least, we need a motion in the order of recording secretary. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to nominate Shelley Casey for the
Second it?
recording secretary.
We have a motion and we have a second. Are there any other nominations for recording secretary? Are there any other nominations for recording secretary? Are there any other nominations for recording secretary? Hearing none, seeing none, nominations for recording secretary are now closed. We have a motion and we have a second. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Member Badouris?
Yes.
Member Sutherland?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Of course.
Secretary Sikora?
Yes.
Vice President Zach?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes. All right. Welcome all to your new positions. If they're new, if they're not, well, keep doing what you do. Moving on the agenda, recognition, student and staff spotlight, 12.1. Ms. Kinder.
Yes, we do have one staff spotlight recognition this evening. I'd also like to congratulate the board members on a successful next term. President Quigley, Member Badouris, I look forward to continuing to work with you. And Member Sutherland, I welcome you, and I look forward to working with you as well, as we've had a very successful relationship working together in the past, and I know that will continue. And tonight, for our staff recognition, we'd like to have one spotlight. That is one of our amazing LMC directors, our Library and Media Center directors. Felix Soto from John R. Tibbet Elementary School is who we will spend a few moments with this evening.
Hey, where are you all going?
We're migrating.
Migrating? Right. Wait for me. You guys know what migrating means?
No.
So sometimes animals, like birds, and sometimes insects go places where it's a little bit warmer, sometimes to find food, sometimes to lay their eggs, sometimes it's to find more butterflies and more birds. I read stories every day to the students. I think it's important for them to hear a human voice, to hear the story, to understand the different things, reading from left to right, from top to bottom, understanding character, settings, problem solutions. I think that's so important, but it's not the only thing. There's a lot more to being a school librarian nowadays than just reading a story. You can put a drop or two of the oil. You can put a drop or two of the food coloring. Remember, hang on, when you're doing this, these are very, they smell strong, so when you smell them like this. Ready? Let's go like that. And that kind of wafts it up to your nose a little bit more, and then it's not as strong. Science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics. And the reason why I think it's an important factor in the library is because we're given the opportunity to present almost like a in-school field trip every time the students come down. And teachers don't always have the time to apply those different things in their classroom for a lot of their activities. So as a school librarian, we have the time to kind of support staff. We can have our STEAM room set up where it gives the students the opportunity to kind of explore those different aspects. We took a solid to its melting point, and then we made something called the solution. Once you make a solution, you can't unmix those things. And then when you want this to get hard, what do you think you got to add to it?
Water.
Heat made it melt, so what do you think you add to it to make it back into a solid? I've been with my brother a couple times, and he is a correctional officer. And when he introduces me to some people or his friends, I say, hi, I'm a school librarian, and he always just gets so mad. He's like, why do you do that? Why don't you say what you are? You know, you're so much more than that. And I always just tell him, I'm like, I want to redefine what school librarian, what that means to people. And instead of just trying to give myself a new label. And so I think that's introducing STEAM is one of those ways of redefining what a school librarian can be.
I've seen a quote that you like to use, and it is this: STEAM is not a big, scary thing. And you say that to other teachers. Explain what that means.
It's not a scary thing because it's you want your kids to start thinking in a way that to look at nature and look at the world and not just a blur, but look a little bit deeper in how things are made, how things are created, and how to improve things.
Why is it that activities in your makerspace are so native to kids? They just jump in. They don't do like we were taught to do and read the directions and then go at it. They just go to work.
There's positives and negatives to that. So there are times where I give them a set of instructions and I'm like, hey, we need to go through these instructions because this is going to be very, you know, if we don't, we could really mess something up here. So here is the set of instructions. Make sure you start at 1 and make your way down. And a lot of them are just like, you say that, but then they just start going at it. And so that sometimes is a negative thing because it's tough for some of them to go through those directions step by step.
I am now going to take advantage of an opportunity that I'm talking to a school librarian to ask a question that has been burning in my mind for years and years and years. And it has to do with a book that I'm sure is in almost every school library in the country, if not in every home. And that book is The Cat in the Hat. Why in the world did the kids let the cat into the house?
Kids are naturally curious. You know, I think they see this walking, talking cat and think, well, you know, I know this is probably going to end up bad, but you know what, let's just see what happens. And I think that's kind of the definition of a child, of our students, is they want to see what happens. And we know how that ends. I mean, it ends well, but they go through some scary moments.
Thank you, Mr. Soto, and thank you to all of our LMC directors.
Maybe he'll do that test where you put the Mentos in a bottle of Coke. That'd be kind of fun. I wouldn't want to have to clean up the mess, but it's a lot of fun. Are there any questions from the public or anybody who wishes to address the board this evening? Hearing none, seeing none, we will move down the agenda. Mr. Renich, action items 14-1 through 3, please.
Thank you, President. Quickly.
Oh. Wait a minute. Are you guys just waving because you're leaving? Oh, you're going to come down and speak. Dr. Mitchum, home from his vacation in the Carolinas? I don't like the limp. I thought you got that taken care of.
Anyway, my sole purpose tonight was to congratulate the 3 members for the re-election, J.T. Borderas, Vicki Sutherland, and Steve Quigley. Congratulations on your election win. And also, most importantly, I came to honor Diane Perro for her service to the district. As a superintendent previously, she was very supportive. She challenged me as well when that needed to happen. And she'll be sorely missed, but I'm sure that Vicki Sutherland will fill her shoes appropriately. She said something tonight that was very apropos when she talked about Rachel Kinder and indicated that she's better than I am, basically. Those words could not be more true. I advocated for Rachel to be the superintendent upon my retirement because I knew that she was younger, smarter, more energetic, and would build upon the successes that we had as we worked together as a team for over a decade. So I hope that this board will support her in the way that the many boards that I worked with supported me. She truly is a gifted administrator, and deserves your trust to lead this district to bigger and better things. And I hope that that continues. So beyond that, just wanted to thank you for your service. Congratulations for your victory or your win, and may Godspeed. I can't leave without saying hello to my sister, Elizabeth Campbell. She was tough on me all the time, but with love. So congratulations to you three. And this is my first board meeting since I retired, and probably will be my last. So thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Mitchell. Yeah, I know you probably have class tomorrow to worry about. All right, moving, if there's no one else who wishes to address the board this evening, action reports 14 through 1 through 3. Mr. Renich, if you would please.
Thank you, President Quigley. This report is brought to the Board of Education each year, outlining all the titles that support both our learners and our administrative functionality. We have 19 titles falling under the district's educational services support and 6 titles falling under the administrative services for technology support. In total, we have 25 titles that are in excess of $25,000, a renewal for a total of $2,837,044 that we estimated the cost to be for next year. Contained in your packet is a report that details all the software being considered for the renewal. So its administration is recommending that the Board of Education approve the software service support maintenance renewals for fiscal year 24 totaling $2,837,044 as presented.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, hearing none. Roll call vote, please.
Member Badouris?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Sutherland?
Yes.
Secretary Sikora?
Yes.
Vice President Zach?
Yes.
And President Quigley?
Yes. Mr. Renich.
14.2, typically every 3 years the district sets school fees for the upcoming school year. It's important to have fees determined because it is a source of our revenue for the district, and it's important for our parents as they have begin the enrollment process. So when analyzing student fees, the following was taken into consideration. Student fees have not increased in the past 3 years, and we are proposing to keep the fees flat for the next 3 years. The district has invested in technology in the previous years and has continued to provide more services in this area. A discount for parents if registration fees are paid by August 4th of 2023. The district is implementing the community eligibility program for nutritional services for all students in school year 2023, thereby eliminating daily lunch fees for our parents. The district has a hardship process in place for those families having challenges when paying fees, and the district offers multi-student family discount. This was presented as an information item in the last board meeting, so the administration is recommending that the Board of Education approve student fees for the school years 23-24 through 25-26 as presented.
Second.
Motion and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Ms. Campbell. Microphone.
So I think I heard him say that there is a process and for the hardship, and what does that hardship consist of? How much discount would a family or an individual, we've got the multifamily discount, but for the hardship, what is that discount?
It really, there's a process that a family would provide information or whatever background or rationale, and then each case is reviewed individually by the building administrator and then forwarded to my office, and I review each one personally. So there's not a set dollar amount. It is really contingent upon the variety of factors, including the amount owed and the other circumstances that are present.
Okay. Next question. I think I'm going to put him on the spot. Since he just got reelected, right? Take the heart attack. Board member Badouris was talking about we were talking about the money and looking at elimination of fees. I know I heard that, but maybe we didn't have a discussion, so I need somebody to respond about where that was going or where that consideration has been. It looked like it has been dropped at this point.
At our Finance Committee meeting, we did talk about the impact of eliminating fees, and the district generates anywhere between $2.5 and $3 million in revenue and fees each year. We thought that by going to the community eligibility program and giving our parents that opportunity not to have to pay school lunch fees met those needs or those criteria that we thought of, and having a hardship process in place addressed maybe those concerns that were brought forth.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? If there are none, a roll call vote would be in order.
Yeah, I would like to revisit that quicker than 3 years, if that's all right. Because I would like to look at diminishing or eliminating these altogether. But without being on that committee or seeing the information that was discussed, but I would like to discuss this at length.
So noted. We have a motion and a second. If there's no other comments, a roll call vote would be in order.
Member Campbell?
No.
Member Sutherland?
Yes.
Member Badouris?
No.
Secretary Sikora?
Yes.
Vice President Zach?
Yes.
And President Quigley?
Yes. Motion carries. Cleaning
Except-
contract.
Yeah, I still have a comment.
Oh, microphone.
That motion was on the table, and that motion, that went forth. But how does Member Badouris or myself bring it back where you said that even a consideration of instead of 3 years? So I need somebody to explain to me, how do we bring that back, and it has to, do we have to stay with this 3 year since we just voted?
Member Campbell, I can answer that for you.
Okay.
So as it passes tonight, that would allow us to move forward with planning, with registration, which obviously needs to be finalized, and the planning of the next fiscal year budget. At any point, it could come back to Finance Committee, and it could be rediscussed, and then it would just be amended for whatever fiscal years was represented. So it might say FY '24 through '26 or '24 through '27. So it's certainly not locked in stone and could be amended, in future years.
Thank you.
Moving down the agenda, GSF cleaning contract. Mr. Renich.
GSF Cleaning Company has been providing cleaning services for Valley View School District for 3 years. The current contract is for 3 years with a 2-year extension option. GSF has been providing outstanding services for the district for the past 3 years at Valley View. They are a national leader in cleaning industry and have a strong presence in the school district arena. The administration is recommending that the Board of Education approve the extension of Global Commercial Cleaning Services Company, otherwise known as GSF, contract for the fiscal year 2023-24 with an increase of 3.06%, and for fiscal year 2024-25 with an increase of 2.75% as presented and pending attorney review.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call vote would be in order.
Member Sutherland?
Yes.
Member Badouris?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Secretary Sikora?
Yes.
Vice President Zach?
Yes.
And President Quigley?
Yes. Ms. Kinder, action report 15-1 through 3.
Yes, 15.1, we're seeking your approval on the adoption of a K-5 Social Studies and Science student work text and online curriculum adoption. This was brought forward for information on April 17th by our curriculum leaders, educators, and students. They provided a strong background, rationale, process, and criteria for selection, and are seeking your approval this evening.
Is there a motion? Is there a second? We have a motion, we have a second. Is there any discussion? A roll call vote, please.
Member Badouris?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Sutherland?
Yes.
Secretary Sikora?
Yes.
Vice President Zach?
Yes.
And President Quigley?
Yes. 15.2.
Okay, action report 15.2, we're seeking the board's approval on board policy 6280, grading and promotion. Just to be precise, this approval is specific to this policy, which was one component of the committee's work in reviewing that policy. In addition, there has been a great deal of talk and information and updates provided by Adam Herder, Executive Director, as well as Member Sikora regarding the procedural piece, which is driven by educator voice and as it's specific to grading procedures at specific grade levels. So what we're seeking approval on this evening is Board Policy 6280, grading and promotion.
For a motion?
Before we do this,
We got to get a motion on the table. So
We gotta have a motion first.
motion.
Is there a motion? We have a
Second.
motion and we have a second. Is
Right.
there any, Mr. Badouris?
So I thought I had a grasp of this until I talked to someone before this, and I have a question. What is the policy? What's the difference between the policy and what's the difference between the procedure? Because there seems to be a little bit of a lack of clarity in that.
Yeah, and I can explain that to you. The policy is that one page that is specific to that level of governance that a Board of Education provides. So this policy is specific that the superintendent shall establish a system of grading and reporting academic achievement to students and their parents or guardians. The system shall also determine when promotion requirements are met. It delineates the general criteria that the procedures must adhere to, and then it delineates the expectations for maintaining evaluation records. So that's the extent of the board's charge as it relates to policy. And then procedure is determined through educator voice, it's been an extensive level of engagement and will continue, specific to essentially how is that grade book set up? How are grades calculated? What are things worth? How are grades reported in a way that aligns to the criteria? So what the board is approving is specific to the policy. We currently do have a policy on the books that has not been revisited since 2015. So that's the reason it's coming to you.
So the policy is not to change from 90-10 to 80-20. It's
So in the previous policy that was board approved in 2015, there was additional information included in that policy that was specific to the 90-10 procedure. Typically, and if you look in school districts across the state's board policy manual, you will see that procedure is not typically included at that policy level. In this case, 90-10 was. When that topic was brought up to be revisited, the policy was being updated, but then procedure is something that is determined, through the committee and through the voice of our educators, leaders, research, students, and best practice. So the approval of a policy essentially lets that work continue as it should, as we run many committee efforts that are driven by those who are closest to the work.
Could you come again, very simple, so that people are listening? So when the parents is saying, and they ask us this question, like Member Dare says, is it 90-10, is it 80-20?
Our current board policy contains procedure that contains 90-10. If the board chooses not to take action on this updated policy, which removes that specific procedure, the old policy just stays in place. And in this case, that policy does contain the procedure that is specific to the 90-10 grading policy or procedure.
I'm going to speak up and say something. We really don't want to go back to the old, because then we go back to 90-10 and we go back to 25%, the final exam counting 25%, and we don't want to do that. The new procedure says 15% for final exams, and the new procedure says 80-20, okay? The policy is that very first document that's up here, and that's the only thing that's policy that we're passing. I know that we have had a lot of discussion about what the missing grade would be, and that's where I think Adam needs to maybe come in on, because I not necessarily agree with it, but he can deal with that part of it. But that's procedure. That has nothing to do with policy. If we don't approve the policy, we go back to 90-10, and we go back to 25% for the final grade, and I don't think we want to do that.
So for
Correct.
clarity, the inclusion of the procedure in the stuff that's been presented to us was a formality or?
So the reason that you're not just seeing this policy with the one page like you would typically a board policy was because Member Sikora made it very known that because parents had raised that question and because there had been a lot of conversation about the procedure piece, she wanted transparency, as do we, to be specific about were there going to be changes made. So it's there for just communication and transparency, just as there has been communication to the educators, and any other additional changes or finalized changes would be communicated as well. Like it is on a typical basis. That's normally not board business, right? If we are making adjustments based on proficiency scales or how much assessments are worth, or to that extent, that's communicated at the administrator and teacher level as
My question
procedure.
is, okay, we vote on this policy, we don't want to go back, the parents have made their concerns about the 90-10. What will the parents have in writing that will be simple enough for them to understand what is going to happen? What will the parents get? What will the students get? Who is, the real key component are the students here. So what are they going to get? What are they going to understand?
Thank you for that question. So at our last committee meeting, as Member Sikora mentioned, that was last Tuesday, that was a major part of our agenda to have the members of the committee draft communication both to families, parents, to students, and also to our educators. And that draft communication essentially lays out what will not be changing and what will be made more consistent, thus the changes that students would experience on how their grade is calculated, as well as how they would be given feedback from teachers after they take an assessment.
So does that make it, to answer her question, what's the simplistic, when I look at this as a student or a parent, how am I going to understand this? Because the purpose was, again, to eliminate 90-10, so.
So the voice that we gathered, there were two major emphases that we wanted to address. One was we wanted to make sure that formative work, which is currently that 10 in 90-10, had a high value, that students valued it at a high level. And the voice was that being only 10%, it wasn't valued as highly. So that's the first change, adjusting the policy so that we can put a procedure in place that changes us to 20% for the formative work and 80% for the other work. So it doubles the value of that formative work. The other marching orders that we got loud and clear from the voice beginning when we originally started collecting voice from the parents who spoke here, as well as others, and students and educators, was they want it to be consistent for kids. So they really, really highly prioritize, and we do too, we agree, as an administrative team, that it should be the same depending on which class they go to, not depending on how each teacher wants to have their grades. There's still flexibility for teachers. We obviously don't want to take that away. Our teachers know what they're doing. Their opinion is very important. They need flexibility within that system. But they wanted certain things to be common, like how much is the formative work worth? So there's other school districts that offer, like, it could be 70-30 or 80-20 or 90-10, whereas we want to pick one thing that's the same, middle school, high school, so they're just used to it. The other being how that we handle missing work. So when we originally presented the information report on the policy, we talked about raising the score for missing work from what is currently a 0 in high school. And based on feedback both from educators and from the board, that's been removed. So missing work in high school would be calculated exactly the same as it is now. So the only other major change would be that when students in good faith put forth effort and do work, whether it's turning in their assignments or taking a test, the minimum score entered into the grade book is a 50, which is still failing by 10 points. However, it does leave students room to be able to re-engage, get their grade up, and be able to pass. And that's been the case in middle school for many years, going back pre-pandemic. And it's also the case in our core math classes and our core science classes and some of our English classes, going back even pre-pandemic, but it's just not common across the board. And so the marching orders that we hear loud and clear was, let's make it consistent. Let's make that 50 minimum of consistency. If you have missing work, it's still worth 0 until you turn that work in. And formative work needs to be worth more as 80-20. So the very short answer would be, if somebody asks what's changing, formative work is worth 20%. It's really, really important that our students do all the work leading up to the test so they can practice and learn and perform well on the test. And that if you do have a very low grade, you'll go in as a 50, which will allow you the mathematical possibilities to earn points enough to be able to pass the class, and that it's still worth it for you to really try and work hard. And lastly, if your work is not completed or submitted, or you miss a test, there will be an M in the grade book that should stand out loud and clear to you, to your teachers, to your parents, that says that work is missing, and right now it's being calculated as a 0 in high school, and you need to get your work done. So we don't want to let students off the hook, right, and just say, okay, you know, you have a 0, here it is. Our goal would be, as all of us in the system would be, you have a 0 now, but let's get the work done, let's get it turned in, let's stay engaged, and then your score will go back up.
So the question I have, you have a 0 in high school. You don't turn your work in. And they don't turn their work in at all. At the end of the year, what does that go up to? It stays in the book as a 0?
Yes, so that would be exactly the same as it currently is. So if a student isn't doing work, they're not going to get credit for that course. So they would have to either
Next question is, they do the work. The definition of the work. If the person puts their name on the paper and answers 1 out of 20 questions, they get a 50%? I want to know a yes or no answer.
My answer is unequivocally no. They do not get a 50% for that. So what we're talking about
And that will be seen?
That will be heavy in our communication to both students, parents, and teachers. It's a good faith effort to complete the work and try to show what they know. So even if they complete all the questions, but it's just really fast and every answer is wrong, when I was a teacher, if I got work like that, and this is the way I would explain it, I would return it to the student and say, this is not ready for me to look at. I can't tell what you know by this. It's not complete. This work is incomplete. Please complete it, turn it in, and I will grade it and give you feedback on it. And that would be our approach to anyone. So if they just filled out the test really fast, we're going to send that back and say, no, we are holding our students to a much higher standard than that to engage at a higher level.
But what about K through 8th grade, though? There's no M in K through 8th grade, right?
So I can just speak to middle school. In middle school, and this is going back years before the pandemic, the minimum grade is a 50 in their grade in progress, even if the work is missing temporarily. And when the work is turned in, it does go back up. So that would be the only piece that's not consistent between middle and high school. Difference being that, you know, it's developmentally more appropriate, would be the argument at high school that 0 should stay because that's real life and we want kids to learn that lesson. Whereas in middle school, we're going to scaffold it a little bit more if their work is missing. Not that the kids don't have to turn it in, and not that it doesn't necessarily affect their grade, but grades in middle school are obviously a little different than grades in high school in terms of earning credit, you know, towards graduation and things like that.
So going back to Vice President Zach's question, if that same scenario, Adam, was in, say, 7th grade math, that would be a 50% though, right? Because it's not discretionary at that point, and there's no M.
Yeah, so the way it's been in middle school for years, right now, if a student's grade book is just blank and it's MMMMM, all for missing, those are calculating at a 50 and their grade is a 50 and it's failing.
Okay, and then...
So the student then fails the class?
Yes, and then the same way anyone else, if you fail a middle school class, we of course have multiple layers of support. There would be a lot of communication in the interim leading up to every time there's a grade report, reaching out to families, trying to support the student, offering opportunities to take the assessments. Generally that happens if there's a pattern of absences, something along those lines. It's not, you know, extremely common for us. A lot of these scenarios that we talk about are kind of outliers, but it's important to go through them too, just so we know that the policy works for everyone.
So this document says the initial adoption was in August of 1997. So we're not really sure what part of this was part of that original iteration, and then you've got 3 amendments that are here. So what is the, if this is the right answer, why are we not cementing this in board policy like we had it before, and now we're shrinking the board policy to 1 paragraph, and then this procedural thing obviously can be subject to change. And
I can mention, so in terms of the language of the policy, as we mentioned at this podium, we have a consultant from a local organization leading our committee from the Consortium for Educational Change. That consultant researched all of our surrounding districts. We are the only district that has any procedures in our grading policy. All of the others have the base language that we are proposing for action.
You said something, what was the high school that did this, Stevenson or something?
So we had talked about, Stevenson had gone even further, looking into giving grades by standard, similar to how we do in our elementary level. That's not what we're pursuing. Lockport, Hinsdale, and Mundelein do have a similar approach to that minimum score for work completed. It's either a 40 or a 50, depending on which district you're talking about. And then those districts, it depends on the teacher. They'll either put in a 0 or a 50 if the work is missing. And that, again, we would just want to be consistent where students know exactly what the playing field is and what they need to do to learn and be successful. So the 2 closer districts to us would be Hinsdale, those 2 high schools, as well as Lockport, that have that minimum score. We do have like a survey from some other work involving several other districts where what's common, aside from just the traditional 100-point scale that we've moved away from years ago, is to give teachers a choice, like I was saying, like 70-30 and missing work counts as a 20 in my class, but then the next period it's 90-10 and missing work counts as a 0. And that was just, we heard loud and clear from all of our stakeholders that that's the first thing we really have to fix. It's got to be the same to set our students up for success.
So another question is that, so we've done a little homework and we've done some digging, and our policies are always very short. A lot of other districts' policies are a little bit longer, and there's more in depth. And that's a concern of ours, because this is something that has been in everybody's mind up here with all our kids in the schools, and they've graduated. We've gone through this, and are we just putting a Band-Aid on it, or are we actually fixing it, is a question I'm asking.
So I can reiterate, in terms, I can't speak to any of other policies, but just this one, with my familiarity, our consultant did confirm that it's the reverse of what you were mentioning, that we have an extensive language in our grading and promotion policy compared to other districts. In terms of fixing the issue, I think a lot goes into it. Certainly, would never claim that just adjusting our grading and promotion approach is going to fix, the reasons that certain students don't have as much success as others in our system. There's a lot that goes into that. Based on the research that we looked at as a committee, based on the voice from the teachers in the committee, we do know that certain students are negatively impacted by the traditional 100-point scale, which we're trying to alleviate with this minimum 50 score. And the research also indicates that while it appears as if it could disincentivize some students, right? Because if I'm gonna get a 20, well, I'll get a 50 anyway. In reality, that is not the case in like the research base where this has been implemented in other places. But even more importantly, closer to home, we know that's not the case. This has been implemented already in our district with our kids in middle school for years, where we have extremely high outcomes even compared to like other districts in our surrounding area. And then in our math and science and other classes, it hasn't necessarily fixed the issue for any student, but we haven't seen this idea that kids would be disincentivized from working because there's a minimum 50 score. It's not an irrational thing to like consider, but our experience is that that is not the case, which is why I feel very comfortable, proposing this action.
Adam, I appreciate all the time that we spent on the phone the first time and obviously today, but I have a very simple question. At some point in time, it was necessary or was deemed appropriate to put this procedure into a board policy, whether it was in 2015 or 2011 or 2006 or 1997. What was the reason why it was obviously passed then and now you want us to take it off?
So just to confirm, the aspects that we're talking about how much does missing work count? We're talking about if someone turns in work that is below a 50, does it raise to a minimum score of a 50? And then we're also talking about the difference between summative and formative work, 90-10. The only procedures that are in the policy currently are 90-10. So this idea of a minimum 50, how missing work is handled, it was never necessary to put that in the policy, and even when the current policy that exists now that has the procedure about 90-10 has never had procedure around a minimum threshold for a score of work completed or how missing work is handled. So that would remain procedure. The reason we're talking about it, similar to what Superintendent Kinder mentioned, is we want to be transparent that these are the changes we're making, but the policy doesn't govern those. So like, for example, those were changed in middle school years ago under the current policy. So it's two separate buckets. So the vote is, can we add this idea of 80-20 as a change to this overall picture, which is what the committee determined to be the best compromise? Or are we locked into 90-10 and then we still make other decisions about these other procedural items about minimum 50s, how we handle missing work? So those operate independent of this policy. But I do really appreciate the dialogue on those things because it's important that we're transparent and people understand what we're proposing.
Anybody else? JT? So I think the board made it clear that they want to steer away from 90-10 and get to 80-20. A kid that lives down the street from me asked me a simple question. Can I get an A if I don't do any homework but get A's on the test? And I told him, absolutely not. So I hope I was right.
You are correct.
No, I don't think that's correct.
Right?
Well, if it's 80-20 and the 90's an A and you do the minimal for the homework and get a 50, that's 10%.
Right.
And then if you
No,
get A's,
I just told him, I said, no, you cannot. Yeah, so my answer was correct. Are there any other questions on this? So if not, a roll call vote would be in order.
Member Badouris?
no.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Sutherland?
Yes.
Secretary Sikora?
Yes.
Vice President Zach?
Yes.
And President Quigley?
Yes. Yep. Yes. Okay, moving down the agenda, the school calendar. Ms. Kinder.
Okay. Action Report 15.3 is presenting 2 updates to the approved district calendar for the 23-24 school year. These are being presented and recommended for approval and adoption. The first is the teacher workday on January 8th has been removed in alignment with the contractually allowed number of workdays for the AFT staff. So this adjustment would cause the return from winter break to occur on January 8th for students and staff. So schools reopen, students and staff return on January 8th. And then the second change is that March 19th has been adjusted to reflect no student attendance. With the above mentioned change, this is no longer being classified as an e-learning day, and we believe that a swap for an in-person day is far more preferred than having an e-learning day on Election Day. Seeking your approval this evening.
Is there a motion?
Second, so moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Member Sutherland?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Badouris?
Yes.
Secretary Sikora?
Yes.
Vice President Zach?
Yes.
And President Quigley?
Yes. Information reports. Technology initiatives. Who's handling that? Down there, Mr. Renich.
So 16.1 is an informational item for technology department initiatives. So in support of the district strategic plan, the technology department has created a 4-year plan for device replenishment to support our staff, students, and district's infrastructure. The technology team has done an excellent job in detailing all the particulars, including the expenditures related to each area of the plan, which is contained in your packet. I'll be working with Mr. Gilmore to incorporate this plan into the 23-24 budget. This is an informational report, and it's the administration's intent to bring this to the next board education meeting for consideration.
If you have any questions, as usual, talk to Mr. Renich. Job descriptions, Ms. Nash.
Okay, 16.2 information report is two job description that we are presenting this evening for your review. They are both existing job descriptions but with edits. One is for the ESL itinerant teacher. The other is for intervention and enrichment coordinator. An explanation for those edits is in the packet for this evening. We'll be seeking approval for these descriptions at the May 15th board meeting.
Take a look, and if you have any questions, let Ms. Nash know. Moving down the agenda, legal services report. Mr. O'Driscoll.
Just want to wish everybody happy Law Day today.
Wow, what do you get for that? Some pro bono? Wow, who knew?
Another Hallmark holiday, right?
Who knew? Moving down the agenda, Association Federation reports. No reports? Thank you. Any old business before the board this evening? Any new business before the board this evening? Mr. Zach?
Yes. Pursuant to board policy, President Quigley appointed me and some other folks of the committee regarding the consideration of a naming of facilities. We have spoken to individuals amongst ourselves about the years of fantastic efforts, results, and guidance to our youth that Coach Ivala and Coach Acton have brought to the Bolingbrook High School. As you know, both coaches have helped hundreds and hundreds of students, athletes, better themselves and has helped their players to college opportunities. As a result, we are recommending that the BHS field be named Acton Ivalo Field. President Quigley, we would like the legal counsel to draft a resolution to be placed on the agenda at the next board meeting.
Thank you. Duly noted. Is there any other new business? Freedom of Information Act information is always on our website. Contact Mr. Blaney for further information. Moving down the agenda, any announcements by the board? From my right, Ms. Campbell.
Yes, it is. And to our attorneys, happy Law Day. It is today.
Any from my left?
Wait, I have one too. I want to welcome Vicki Sutherland to the board.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Vicki.
And I just wanted to say thank you to my family and friends who came out today to be here with me. They had to go home. The little ones needed to go to bed and getting restless, but I was very thankful that they did come out to support me. And also, I'm looking forward to working with the board and the administration and serving the community of the Valley View School District and to the best of my ability. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I want to say a few words about Vicki because when we were campaigning and I saw her dedication to the position that she sought, she knocked on lots of doors and talked to lots of people, and she brings something, a dynamic to this district that we have, but we didn't have it to the level that she had. But her service to the district for, I don't know how many years, but many, many years, and her understanding of education, I think, will bring a dynamic to this district again, that we have with Deb and we've had with others. But I want to welcome you to the board, and she will ask lots of questions, and she expects proper answers. So that's a notice to you guys out there in the audience that are wearing a VVSD shirt. Vicki, welcome, and I look forward to working with you, and I'm sure the rest of the board members do as well. Any other announcements? Did you want to say something about the thing on the May 25th? Okay, I didn't know if you wanted to promote it or not. Okay.
Okay, Focus, our at-risk group ran by my son Willie Poe, I will say it up, is that they are having a fundraiser at the Bowling Club on May 25th. So if you would like to participate, the young people will be at their first formal. They are looking for people like to help to dress them up and things like that. They're taking etiquette classes, so they'll know the salad fork and all that other good stuff. So that is May 25th at the golf clubs. Thank you, Steve, and Steve is help supporting them.
Yep, absolutely. When you have people in the community doing good things, we should recognize it, try to support it, and whichever way you can support it. Appreciate that. And I know the Valley View Education Enrichment Foundation has a golf outing. I got an invite for that, but that's sometime in June, coming up, whenever. So might as well get it out of the way.
It's okay. June 8th is the Wine and Dine.
Nine and dine.
It's not the Wine and Dine?
Wine, nine and dine?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's the Nine and Dine and Wine.
Wine with a
Anyway.
W-I-N-E.
Yes, and it is
No
on
H.
our website, so if you want to go on, please come and be a part of that. That's our second fundraiser. We are meeting this week with senior leaderships to determine what grants the teachers will be getting. There were 49 submitted this year, and we're looking forward to getting those out to our teachers.
Thank you. Any other announcements by the board? Any announcements by the administration? Everything that's been said has been said. Seeing no other business before the board, a motion to adjourn would be in order.
Second.
Motion and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. The ayes have it. Have a great evening. Thank you.